time on the same screen, I suppose, or is this the main requirement you had, or we had
It's
a
it,
very good mechanisms for switching between applications, and when I was using the KDE, hold on, Plasma KDE, no, sorry, Plasma Desk, sorry, Netbook Plasma or Plasma Netbook or something. They have right the way KDE works is you've got sessions which allow you to run the application, and the way it's constructed is similar to the way it was done in KDE 3, just instead of things like Kicker and K, I think it used to be called K Desktop. You have this thing which usually runs automatically. It's called Plasma
mhm.
dash desktop. And once you run that, you've got all the panels coming up in the background. You can change and put background and move around and do workspaces and so on. And if you want to run the netbook interface, it basically runs the application in the very same way, but the desktop itself is something that you call with Plasma dash netbook. And you can do it from the panel. You can go to the control panel, actually choose to do that by default, and go into this type of session. And you can move between the sessions, and they basically recognize which windows are open. Now, what I did find is that the way that the netbook interface is designed is to have one applications in, and it has like 4 workspaces, and it's designed to have applications per workspace. And the way it works in Linux is with virtual desktops. You don't have to minimize and maximize and put things and spread them around too much. You can just use all kinds of keyboard shortcuts to move between applications. And when you have a limited screen size, as you do to some extent in netbooks, I think many people can work reasonably well unless they work with 2 windows, for example, copying and pasting between them at the same time.
You see, I mean, Android, as you know, and well, I'll stick with Peppermint just because that was a very good point. That was brought up in one of the emails to me. I'll say Peppermint defaults it to desktop spaces. So if I want to run an application full screen, say an IRC client in desktop 2 and a word processor in desktop 1, no problem at all. And Jolly Cloud works very, very, very similar to that. But sometimes, for me, I'm just trying to quickly think of 2 examples. Right, I might be in an IRC channel. I might want my IRC client window minimized so it's only maybe taking up half the size it normally does, and I want it on the same desktop as maybe a MP3 player, maybe even gedit or something like that, all on the same screen, so I can see them instantly. So while I'm typing away, doing whatever I'm doing, I can see if somebody's messaging something of relevance in the IRC channel. I might want to skip my MP3. I don't want to be switching between desktops all the time. I want it in front of me live, as it were. And that was something I couldn't get from Jolly Cloud. Now, it might be that with fiddling and tinkering, that feature was available. But, I mean, as I made clear in my review at the time, I was on limited borrowed time because I had a few days to choose my final solution for over Christmas because I was going away for Christmas with my netbook. And like I say, Peppermint offered it straight out the box, exactly the environment I like. At the moment, I've got Skype open up, I've got IRC client, another little window on the same desktop, and I've also got my mail, sort of half minimized, half expanded on the same desktop. Now, all that I couldn't see a way to do in Jolly Cloud, and that was the main point that I had against it, and why it wasn't suitable for me. I'm not really interested in having 4 different desktop spaces and switching between them, because I can do that on Peppermint. As well as having my windows open. So that was just my view. And things like dragging and dropping icons between different folders and maybe pulling one of the files into a player and all that sort of stuff.
I had some experiences working with smaller. Since the age of 19 or so, I've always been using 2 screens at least. And once in a while, about 5% of the time, I find myself in a situation where I have to work with 1 screen. And then it's really hard for me to do certain tasks like dragging things between screens. And you always have all kinds of nice features and tricks. And one of them is moving in the case of KDE, move to the side of the screen. And then you have the kind of expose type of layout of all the windows. And you can actually see the contents of all the windows, including videos being played. And also, you kind of master how to pass around between the desktop using shortcuts, using mostly control and the F keys and things like that to move between things. It's still very inconvenient if you have to see several things at the same time and actually just move your eyes to switch between things you're supposed to be watching instead of clicking things. That's for sure. But it depends. If you just browse the web, I suppose for lots of people, even the notion of running a browser and IRC client at the same time is a bit outlandish because they cannot really concentrate too well on several things at once, especially, they use Facebook to, I don't know, go there and use it also as an instant messenger and also to view things. I mean, I happen to have viewed how people used things, like Facebook. I usually, for some reason, I watch lots of people use Facebook. But I kind of, over the shoulder, I kind of see what they use the computer for and how many applications they have open, and I find that they're very one-task-oriented people. So they kind of, I'm not sure that Linux is supposed to be marketed as something for most, so-called consumers, or is supposed to be a kind of a platform that teaches people how to use the computer more efficiently. But what I did see for people I installed Linux for, they tend to sit with the browser and they're fine with it. They don't have the notion of having IRC at the same time. Maybe they have their phone next to them, a mobile phone or something like that. But that to them is multitasking, having two devices at the same time, not two desktops or two, I usually one of the first things I do is just remove virtual desktops because it confuses people. If they click the wrong things, oh, all my windows are, where do I get my windows back? Oh, I just lost all my work. No, it's just there in the desktop. Just click here. So I just know it's a source of confusion to some people.
And that just reminds me of the one sort of eye candy feature that I now can't. Well, there's two eye candy features that I can't live without. The first one being wobbly windows. I think that's the most fantastic thing I've ever seen in my life. I think it's brilliant. I don't feel in control of my windows now unless they wobble when I move, because it gives me some sort of interaction with my.
And of course, you don't have to go to the top of the windows. You can just press. Do you use the Alt key when you move the windows around?
No, I just drag them with the mouse. I never use it.
Lots of people don't know. You can actually resize them without going to the sides. You can just press the key and then drag the window anywhere. You just click on the window and move it around. Lots of people can do that.
And also, in addition, the desktop cube. And while some people view it as just mere eye candy, it's very, very handy if I've got all four of my desktop environments running, and I'm doing lots of things. I can keep monitoring them pure because it's all updated. It's unlike some people that sort of look at the effect for the first time and think that maybe it's just a snapshot of what's happened at that moment when I've pressed the button to initialize the cube. It's not. It's actually working in real time. So if you have a movie playing or whatever, you can actually physically see that movie playing as you're swiveling the cube around.
Yeah, that's a bit of an issue, to be honest with you. Sorry, I interrupt you. One thing I did find out is that it takes up resources. It actually plays if the video is on a different desktop and it plays the video, your hardware will be dedicated to playing the video, even if it's not even visible.
Oh, it's yes.
Unless you minimize that, and then it knows, okay, I don't have to render the video.
It's not perfect. But usually the implementation I would have it would be maybe a IRC client and a few other things on one desktop, a video on the other that I'm watching, maybe that, or even something on the iPlayer, BBC iPlayer that I'll be watching, and I want to flick between the IRC channel and the video very quickly. So I'm just sort of moving the desktop cube, and that's a feature that I find invaluable. I think it's absolutely fantastic, and it's one of these eye candy things that's a lot of people sort of knock, but I find it very, very useful in a practical method as well. And just things like dragging my windows. If I'm dragging a window, I'm doing it now, dragging a window into my other desktop, the cube automatically rotates around and it gives me a sort of sense of where everything is. So I think it's a fantastic effect. But sorry, I digress. Yes, so that was the feedback.
We're doing a show about tricks that we know of how to use the desktop. The one issue I see with that, it's usually necessary to have some videos to illustrate what you're talking about. You obviously see what you're talking about as you go along, but for a person especially who's not actually familiar with you mentioned the Jolly Cloud operating system now. I have in my mind what I was using when I was trying to, the Plasma netbook interface. So I'm thinking about the shortcuts you have and how it could actually show you all the desktops at the same time. If you went to the corner of the screen and it would just kind of it would use 3D acceleration which in this case it was Fedora 14. Fedora 14 uses the free drivers to do acceleration, and it works great out of the box, and it's just wonderful. So working with lots of windows was not so complicated as you put it. But without actually seeing it or without doing a kind of video, I did some screencast yesterday, and it's also hard to do screencasts because you need to know